All right, so good afternoon. Today we're gonna have with us a very, very interesting person, Evita. So please, could you just introduce yourself to our viewers out there?
Good afternoon. So I'm Evita. That's one of the most dreadful questions I ever get. Introduce yourself. I'm a member of the human species. I'm a creative cultural entrepreneur. I am neurodivergent, so I'm autistic and ADHD. I have this amazing combination that makes things interesting, to say the least. I'm also an upcycling artist, a facilitator, and a trainer for non-formal education and inclusion projects.
Great, great. This is actually our very first podcast with on neurodiversity and neuro inclusion. So that is something that I think our viewers would really be interested in. For starters, let's go back to how you found yourself. Let's say, right? What's the origin of Evita?
Well, I was born. That's how it started. But the origin, because we are discussing about neurodiversity and
Yeah.
how is my journey in that. I was a late diagnosed autistic ADHD, which is very common for our generation. From a young age, I always felt that I was quirky, different. I would joke that I'm from another planet. I was what we could call a gifted child. So I would always excel in school, and I would get the recognition and self-esteem from there.
Right.
But throughout the ages, I was facing challenges. And gradually, as you grow older, you notice that other people don't face the same challenges when it comes to socializing or social cues or managing sensory issues. And my journey started when in 2016, I already had this suspicion that something is different.
Yeah.
But in 2016, my late mother had a very heart-to-heart conversation with me. And she was like, honey, I'm so happy. I'm so happy you're doing well in life. And I was like, thanks, Mom. She's like, when you were young, I was worried because you were kind of special.
You are.
I was like, yes, mother. She's like, yes, I mean, you were different from the other children, but then you went to school and you did very well academically. And I was like, phew. So
Yeah,
she's just a genius. So that's the thing, and that kind of worked for me in the sense let's look into it.
Yeah.
And that's when I started my research about autism spectrum. How does it express to girls and grown-ups, and how does it express to people that are also identified as gift children? And in 2019, I got my self-diagnosis. 2020, my official diagnosis, and there is a whole circle of trauma relief and advocacy that comes with it.
Interesting. So we can categorically say that 2019 was that pivotal moment for you, that you
Yes.
kind of embraced yourself in the wholesome way, and when
No. 2019 was when I started verbalizing it to my surroundings,
alrighty.
more like in the sense of a joke,
Mhm.
like, oh, I must be kind of autistic, or this is my autism, or I'm getting a burnout because of that. But it was more in a joking, casual way.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, that I had more time due to the pause to go deeper in it, that's when I really began researching on the topic, on what it means, how it translates in your daily life, and I started advocating for it and being very verbal with my surroundings. What does that mean? And at the beginning of this journey, even though we speak about neurodivergence, inclusion, and accommodations needed,
Yeah.
I was not aware of the accommodations I needed.
All right.
I knew that I had the symptoms. I could live the experience, but I was not able to recognize when am I getting overstimulated? How does that express in me?
Yeah.
How do I communicate to the other person in a respectful way? And that took, I believe that it's been like a year and a half that I'm better at that. So it is quite a journey when you're not aware of this from young on,
Yeah.
which means that your caretakers and the school system and everyone built you up on how to advocate for yourself.
So how has this your neurodivergent self, how's this impacted your entrepreneur journey as a creative artist?
I think I found myself in entrepreneurial journey and creativity because of my neurodivergence, because the traditional workplace, even though I could theoretically thrive with the hyper-focus and the concept delivery and the fact that I'm very creative in solutions and risk management, I would spend all my energy there. There is the spoons theory for social activity. I would spend all my spoons at work. And then when you arrive home, when you arrive to your social life, you have no energy and you turn non-verbal.
Yeah.
So gradually, I figured out that I would be more myself, more authentic within the creative world. And I found that there I could find my tribe where we embrace difference and we embrace quirkiness as part of the creative identity. And I am an origami upcycling artist. That should have given me away. I mean, I enjoy folding little pieces of paper, like 12 times each piece, and then I put together 1,500 of these pieces to create a little sculpture.
That's brilliant.
And that nobody got the red flags, maybe let's check this child. Right? Or I was timing my steps with the distance travel. Nobody thought that was weird. No, she's just clever.
All right. So now we've touched a little bit about this. For people who haven't or who don't know what it is, how would you define neurodiversity?
Well, I don't feel fully qualified to do that, but I would say neurodiversity is the acceptance that each brain is different. When we say neurodiverse people, it's the people that are on the autism spectrum, ADHD, AUDHD, which is the combination of the two, dyscalculia, dyslexia, and some other conditions. It means that the brain of these individuals is, we say wired differently, but it means that they perceive and process information in a different way, and they need to receive information in a different way.
All right, and you know, it's one thing to be neurodiverse; it's another thing to be neuro-inclusive.
Yes.
Right. So just being neurodiverse, if I got your flow, is more like, okay, we're kind of wired differently. But I think a more present thing in today's society is neuro-inclusivity, right?
We hope. We are very far away from neuro-inclusivity. When we speak neurodiverse, it's to identify the condition. It's like when we say someone has Down syndrome. It's a disability. The first thing we have to accept. And that's a problem and an identity issue for many neurodiverse individuals to go and say, I have a disability.
Yeah.
I mean, but neuro-inclusion is about building workplaces and social spaces that are accessible to people that are neurodiverse. And I say that neuro-inclusive spaces are human-friendly spaces. The accommodations needed usually by people on the spectrum or people with ADHD are accommodations that are welcomed also by neurotypicals, that would make the life of neurotypicals easier and more, let's say, our harsh reality, softer to handle and process. It has respect and emotional intelligence in it, the neuro-inclusivity.
Right. And I definitely can vouch for your smartness, because you definitely you basically answered the next question I was going to ask you. It's like, okay, how can we get this in? Now, what are some major misconceptions about neurodiversity? What are the facts and what are the myths?
We don't have enough time for everything.
Yeah, we could just hit on three of each.
Pick some,
just three of
For
those.
example, what happens many times is when I come out to people, I will speak from personal experience because we did the workshop yesterday, so that was more technical. But when I come out and I tell to people, you know what, I'm on the spectrum and that's why I need this communication to be done differently. People that knew me for many years, even people that just get to know me, their answer will be, but you don't look autistic.
Right.
And then my answer is, how should I look to be autistic?
Yeah.
Like, what's your stereotype of autism that I should look like? Should I stim all the time in different ways? But I stim in ways that are not inconvenient for you.
All right.
That means I have high masking abilities.
All right.
So that you don't look autistic, it showcases what do we consider autistic in visual behavior. Another myth is that when they say autism spectrum, everyone imagines that we're talking about a line.
Right.
That there is a bit autistic and very autistic. And there is the bit autistic, they can function in society. Very autistic, they need constant support and care.
Right.
However, the spectrum is like a circle with different attributes. It could be sensory issues, auditory issues, social cues, verbal cues. And then each person on the spectrum has different levels of this. It's like you make your little map, and what tricks you and doesn't trick you. And the fact that when people say high functioning autism, which is very hurtful, because high functioning means that you are low maintenance for the neurotypical, that you don't
you don't ask too much for them.
You don't inconvenience my life, and I don't care if that means you're burning out socially or you're burning out professionally.
Right.
So the high functioning, the low functioning, I find very difficult. Also, the idea that autism is a disease that you get to treat. It's a different way the brain works.
Right.
And it's not like a stigma. It's nothing that the parents should feel. Because I also get that from parents like, my child has been diagnosed with autism. What have I done wrong? And how can I deal with it? And I cannot accept it.
That's difficult. It's very difficult.
It is difficult to hear, especially as someone on the spectrum. And my response is like, your child just, as every human, needs to know how to manage their emotions, their sensory issues, and advocate for their needs.
Right.
Another topic that came, because I'm a recent mother, when I gave birth, and even though I communicated that I'm on the autism spectrum, this will be a very emotionally challenging experience, so I need to be accommodated and communicated properly. Even though this was communicated and the staff was very good, they did not understand what this means.
Right.
They did not understand what I was translating to them, which meant before you touch me, you have to inform me, because I'm overstimulated now. Before you do a procedure, you have to let me know.
Because you kind of plan ahead and put everything in. It's just like little puzzles, isn't it?
And I had a meltdown, which for them, it was like I was so overreacting because I was a woman in labor, but I was explaining to them.
Right.
When they told me, you're having a C-section and not a natural labor, I couldn't get the information.
Right.
I didn't accept it.
Right. So is it a matter of you've heard it, but you understand it, but it takes you some time to come to terms with it?
No, I wasn't convinced. So first of all, they changed my plans.
Right.
It was like, I'm going to do natural birth, and now you're telling me I'm going to do a C-section. Hola.
Yeah.
Then I literally, my doctor was like, we have to do this. And my answer was like, I don't see the scientific evidence for it.
Right.
And he says, but I'm your doctor, and I'm telling you, this is not happening. We have this data, and you have to go for it. I was like, I'm not sure I follow what you're saying, because I'm not tired. I didn't ask for pain medication. I can handle the pain. The heartbeats of the baby are good. I can see the monitor. So tell me why we cannot keep trying for 12 hours or more.
That must have been challenging for him.
Oh my God, yeah, for him, for my sister that was supporting me, for my friends, suddenly phone calls were coming, but I was already in the state that I couldn't talk to anyone. I was entering a non-verbal mode.
Right.
So I wouldn't answer, I wouldn't speak. It took like 3 hours to convince me to actually go in.
Right.
And in between, a poor intern nurse came in and said, you need to answer these questions. And I was like, answer these questions for whom? He says, for our resident doctor. I have my own doctor, but it's from the clinic. I don't speak to doctors I don't know at this point. And can you also make sure that no nurse that I don't know doesn't enter?
All right, now we talked. You've talked a little bit about some of the challenges, and this definitely was a challenge. So can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges you've faced, a little bit about that, and how you managed to overcome them, and something that's been quite, I would say, it's sequential and connected with all my podcasts is you get to taste the bitter at times to know the sweet, and maybe some of those challenges have helped shape who you are today. So could you tell us about maybe any challenge you've had, and how that has kind of helped you in triumphing and being who you are today, and being successful in your space and what you do?
I'll have to pick some of those.
Yeah, we could just have one.
Yeah. So one of the challenges that came, and it's a personal experience. Of course, I speak for me. I cannot speak for other people on the spectrum. It goes also with the family history, personal trauma, whatever is happening.
Yeah.
Just to be transparent that I'm not representing the whole community. Each one's experience is different, and probably my challenges will appear minuscule to the challenges of other people that have it different. Okay, I'm not negating anyone's experience. In my case, as I said, I was considered a gifted child, and there is, when you're a gifted child, it means it's not because you're necessarily super intelligent, it's because of the extreme advanced pattern recognition. Right. And our educational system is about pattern recognition when you are answering questions. But everyone considers, oh my God, it's so gifted. And then you get this idea and you get this feeling that you don't have to try always to succeed academically, which is not the case when you enter university. So after the third year of university, my pattern recognition skills were not doing the trick.
Anymore. You had to figure out another way around.
I had to figure another way around, and I didn't build this skill set throughout my school years because it was never needed.
Yeah, it just came easy for you.
It just came easy, which frustrated me then during the university years. And add rejection dysphoria syndrome that comes with ADHD, it means if I felt that I would fail an exam, I wouldn't even go take it.
Oh, yeah.
Which translates to I haven't yet graduated from pharmacy.
Oh, yeah, okay. So you studied pharmaceutical.
Yes. I studied pharmaceuticals. I did research on Parkinson's disease in Finland for a year. But I haven't got my bachelor's yet.
But hey, who needs it now? Look at you.
I want it. I want it because I want to do a PhD, and now I have already worked. And this is about overcoming challenges.
Right.
I worked a bit on my imposter syndrome, on my rejection dysphoria, in the sense that it's okay to take an exam and fail. It's okay to go there and not know 100% all the material, and just do your best.
Exactly.
And I will graduate because there is an end goal to it. Also, what was another challenge? Boundaries. Setting boundaries to your time and ability. Because you always feel, I can figure this out. I can do it. I have the time. I'm fast. But time runs out.
Yeah, time waits for no man, right?
Yes, time runs out. Time waits for no one. And also when you hyper-focus and hyper-perform one day, you have to accept that this is your super day. And then the next 2 days, you need to take it a bit slower and not just push yourself on super days, day after day after day. That's not your 100% performance.
And that's not sustainable either.
That's not sustainable. For me, this is still a work in progress. Being a creative and event managers, we run large-scale festivals, we run trainings and host big teams. And also, being an ADHD means my brain feeds from dopamine. And the last-minute stress of events is a real kick.
I kind of have that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I feel I perform better when there's more pressure. It's probably like that for most people, but I think it also depends on how you channel your energy, right? So, I think we all have limited amount of energy, and then you have the ability to focus and push all that into a channel. And I think that makes it probably easier for you when you choose to apply yourself in something or you're very interested in that thing.
The problem is when your special interest is everything.
Jeez.
I have the type of I know there are people that their special interest is trains or dinosaur or dolls
numbers,
or something specific.
or music, right?
My special interest is knowledge.
You just want to.
I just want to.
Everything.
When I get interested in something, I just want to learn everything about the topic and go deeper in it. And then when I reach the point that I'm like, I know enough, then I move to something else.
All right.
But that means I don't gain extreme expertise on one thing. However, my friends call me Google because sometimes they ask me to give them information. They say, you're more accurate and faster than Google.
All right, cool. So how can we harness the power of neurodiverse individuals into the space of leadership? How can they give us a different perspective of leadership?
Depends. I mean, I will speak about my type of leadership because I have led teams.
Yeah, and let me just do this. Let me put a caveat out there. we are speaking based on your experience,
Mm-hmm.
how you see the world, and we're trying to raise awareness out there. It doesn't necessarily mean that one cap fits all, and that's one of the important things that we're
Yes.
trying to get out of this. However, we definitely need to get someone who's been through the process and is experiencing a life from their own eyes and viewpoint. So I think that's really a very good point to point out there.
So for me, the leadership, what you harness from neurodiverse leadership for people, in my case, is that I communicate transparently and honestly with my team, even the newcomers, even the interns, even the volunteers. I communicate and I'm like, I'm on the spectrum. That means that some days will be very productive, other days I might not be able to be reached by phone. In those days, you text me.
All right.
Also, I give flexible working hours. On one hand is to respect the boundaries and the working styles of my team. On the other hand is because I need the flexibility myself.
All right.
So because I know what I need, I offer it to the others.
And that's fair.
Also, leadership on the spectrum means that it's highly empathetic. There is this myth that people on the spectrum have no empathy or social skills. It's a huge myth. They say, oh, they're autistic, that's why they're abstract, Asperger's syndrome, this or that.
Right.
No, it's just that we cannot do small talk. It takes practice. And to make small talk, I made the weather my special interest.
All
So
right.
I started
you could talk about the weather.
so I'm able
right?
to make a small talk about the
that's
weather.
a nice one, right? Everybody always does that.
But it's not small
really
talk for me. I'm really interested. I'm like, yeah, and it changed, and the weather phenomenon. How about the experiments that serviced? You're like, okay, we just spoke about the heat.
And then probably start talking about ESG before you know it. Okay, now you've mentioned this, and I think it bubbles into what I would ask you. How can we create a more inclusive environment in the workplace for neurodivergent people?
There are several steps that can be done, and it depends on the capacity of each company.
Right.
And that's easier. That's easier to answer. So you need to offer like flexible working hours.
Which PwC does?
Yes.
Really cool.
Which means people can work remotely or have a flexibility on arrival and departure. To offer quiet spaces for work. Because after the pandemic, we have so many Zoom calls. So suddenly in an office, if you're sitting in an open space, there are people having video calls right and left, and that could be very distracting. Of course, accommodations like noise cancelling earphones or noise cancelling meeting rooms would be nice. In Germany, I've seen some working spaces, because of course I do a lot of study visits on good practices of other countries, that have a room not bigger, a bit smaller than the podcast room we're sitting now. That is the sensory relaxation room, which has lights that you can control, temperature that you can control. You can have essential oils. There is a water bed and fluffy objects that you can relax. And this is very easy to regulate the nervous system, both of neurotypicals and neurodivergent people in between work, when you need to just and be alone, but also not just be alone in a dark room, to feel kind of cuddled and rest. So there are different sounds. You can offer different ways of sharing communication, because now we're talking about from the manager's point of view.
Right.
So you check with your team and you share the information precisely, clearly, in a timely manner, not so much last minute things.
Yeah, so all the guys out there, the managers and people out there who just like, this is urgent, this is super urgent. We really have to kind of accommodate people more and consider the spheres in which they operate before we put that out there.
Or what would help in the case of neurodivergent is, if you drop an urgent task, also drop what of the other tasks can be second priority and when.
Yeah.
Because when I was dropped an urgent task, I thought that I have to do everything else and the urgent task. So I was burning out. Whereas now I inform my team, when I give them something urgent, I go, you know what, we have to finalize this report today by 2 p.m.
Right.
And you can deliver this, and this on Monday. Or before I drop the urgent task, I start with the question, what do you have on your plate today?
Right.
They give me what they have on their plate. And then I can prioritize as a manager, this, and this can wait. This you can do after the urgent task. And tomorrow on Monday, because this is too much pressure, come 1 hour later at the office.
Great. One thing that how, because you're obviously very talented, and neurodiversity is something that's really quite important to me and personal to me. Um, how do you think organizations out there can get talent and people with lots of potentials who are neurodiverse? How can organizations reach to them and reach out to them and get them? What do you think are ways that companies can do that more?
Offering the inclusive environment without saying that is for neurodiverse, because a lot of people don't know it. They're not even aware they're on the spectrum. They just know that they cannot handle it. For example, I used to say, I don't feel very peoply today.
Right.
That was before I got diagnosed. Like, I don't feel like interacting with people. It's like, I don't feel very social today. But if you offer an environment that the other person feels, I can be here, I'm comfortable, it doesn't creep on my skin, I don't feel under pressure, you could reach out also by having open interviews and clear tasks description
of what's expected.
Yes, what's expected.
Now I'll expand that a little bit further. How can us as a community and society really embrace neurodiversity? What ideas do you have? That's a difficult one.
It's very difficult and very painful topic. Society can listen and try not to negate the experience of the other or minimize it, because it's very hurtful when you come out and you're vulnerable, saying, this is my shortcoming. I'm not coming out to you showing you my superpower, which I have many.
Yeah, which you have no clue about.
Yes,
right?
I mean, I have so many superpowers, and I could really mask this, but I trust you, and I'm vulnerable, and I come out and tell you, because of my autism condition, I cannot handle this, or I need you to give me the option to answer yes or no before you answer my question, or I need to communicate in writing right now instead of verbally.
Right.
Don't come and tell me, yes, but we are all a bit autistic.
That's quite
that's
insulting, right?
It
inhuman.
feels like it's like you come and tell me, well, I had an open heart surgery, and I say, yeah, we all skip a heartbeat once or twice.
Right. You really don't know how that feels, right?
Yes.
Unless
society just needs to educate themselves, like we have to do about every inclusion topic.
And raise awareness, like we are now.
Awareness, like even in feminism, LGBTQI topics, disability issues. It's all about emotional intelligence, empathy, and educating yourself about the condition. What's the experience of the other?
And also, I think being non-judgmental, because you at times, you do have, maybe someone has a kid or a family relative that is on the spectrum, and they get stimulated, and and then you do have people looking at you like strange, like, oh, okay, look like you're from Mars or something. And I think we have to really be more accommodating, less judgmental, and more open, more direct, more honest with people, as opposed to trying to play games and expecting the other person to keep up, right?
Yeah.
So I think the more straightforward we are, the more open we are, the more embracing and the less judgmental we are, I think it will probably help a little bit more.
Holding space for each other, I guess. Holding space with empathy and understanding, and allowing people to be their authentic selves, to the point that it doesn't harm the other always. But it's also, I don't know what my experience would be if I didn't start masking from the age of 4, which happened unconsciously. If I wasn't adjusting to, because you can see and you don't want to be the odd duck out. Entering the creative world, you stop caring about that, because everything is justified. She's creative, it's okay.
Yeah, and usually the more creative you are, the more it's expected for you to be different from people, right? Because that's the perception we have. And is it right, I don't know if this is a myth or a fact, that ladies, girls, women are better at masking than men?
Yeah.
That comes down to our biology or our makeup or DNA or something. What do you think?
I think it's a combination of biology and social structures, what's expected from girls and how they're conditioned from young on. and how we socialize, and also that autism and ADHD expresses different
Yeah.
in young girls than in young
guys.
boys. And there are a lot of misconceptions. For example, a common misconception about ADHD is that someone who is hyperactive in movement,
Right.
but it could be hyperactivity in the brain, like hyperactivity in thoughts,
Yes.
hyperactivity in anxiety, which is not so easy to pick up.
Are those correlated in any way? Because usually what you think, you feel, and how you feel, you act, right? So you kind of have like a kind of sequential thing. So is it safe to say that if I see a kid and the kid is really hyper and, you know, it's possible that that kid is not just overly stimulated from the environment or the immersion of them in that environment, or also it might be in their mind, and their minds is really soaking in quite a lot of stuff and they're really trying to deal with it.
I mean, we're not one thing, we're a very complicated biological machine.
Yes, we are.
And a lot of things affect us. And we should be careful not handing out labels to kids or
I
grown-ups.
hate labels.
And like, if a kid is running around very fast, it could be that they had too much sugar. But if this is happening,
With all the chocolate out there
Yes,
these days, doesn't
but,
really help, does it?
early intervention helps a lot, the parents, the child, and building a community helps. In my case, it helped me following accounts online of people that are very open about their late diagnosed autistic journey, and I could identify. And I
Right.
could identifying yourself in the other helps to
Mhm.
recognize your own condition as well.
Great. Now, but before I get to that, do you have any, say, funny, because we all have different sense of humor and stuff and things that make us laugh, and so I'm going to just poke you a little bit and say, what something is it do you consider as funny that happened to you, and you saw it as a funny experience, irrespective of the fact that you're neurodiverse?
I'll have to think of it. I'm sure there are a lot of things that I've done because I'm neurodiverse that are weird for other people. I also have the mama folk brain now for my memory.
By the way,
Yeah.
your daughter is so beautiful.
Thank
My
you.
God, her eyes, and she was
Yeah.
like, it's like when I saw her, she was like holding, like, come
Yeah.
here, and then it was so sweet.
Thank you. She's the cutest
She's
button.
gorgeous and very
Yeah.
confident lady as well.
Thank you. I try to socialize her a lot, but she comes with a very positive
Energy.
energy and
All right.
demeanor. So, what have I done out of many things? I've done many things that are weird and funny. It will come to me. It will come to me.
Now,
Yeah. Just give me a
before we
moment.
get to that, now, what's your vision for the future for neurodiversity and neuro-inclusivity?
That we managed to facilitate, because I will not say build, to facilitate a society or smaller groups at least, because we cannot affect the entire society, that is human-friendly, accepting, and inclusive, where
Right.
people can express themselves, get the accommodations they need, and interact socially in their honest, full potential.
Right.
That they don't have to mask
Okay.
to be accepted.
Now, because we are a certain generation, and you have a daughter, kid, and for us, how do we train the next generation to be more accepting than our generation is? How do we build the future based more on acceptance and embrace and empathy and understanding?
We train them on emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a skill you can train yourself on. Some people have it more when they're born, others less, but there is a way that you train yourself on that, and you can train your children, expose them to differences. Don't keep our children in a secluded environment with
Right.
just certain human types.
And-
Expose them, and also there are books that we can read to our child about different conditions and situations, and how they can interact with a classmate that maybe is on the spectrum or
That's
has
great.
other challenges or disabilities.
That's very good feedback. Now, if there's anybody out there who's neurodiverse, how would you say would be a good way for them to find themselves?
That's a very unique question. It depends on the person and their stage in life, and if they're safe to come out as well. I would say first accept that you're not neurodiverse. Go through the grieving process, which is like, why I didn't know this early in life, why I didn't have this knowledge earlier in life, and then find the courage to advocate for your needs, being prepared, though, that the reason that people were not interacting with you in a more emotionally intelligent way was not lack of knowledge. It's also that people can't always be bothered. So that's something I learned after coming out and communicating. I realized that I thought that I wasn't getting accommodated for my needs because people didn't know what I needed. And when I started asking what I needed, I still wasn't accommodated because they considered that that was a whim. That just was a quirk.
Right.
So, and okay, I just have the fun part. So, for me, many times when I was trying to be polite socially, it was many times translated as flirting.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and I can explain that, how it goes. So from the age of 17, I have found myself receiving flirtatious advances when I thought, but we were just talking, how did this happen?
Right.
And then you realize that when I felt nervous in the presence of another person, I would just steam with my hair or be like this and this. I couldn't keep the eye contact so concise. So it appeared to be, if you do it discreetly, it comes eye contact, you look the other way, eye contact. So it's like,
your hair is like, okay, she's got a thing for me now.
When I would get even more stressed of the situation or didn't know what to say, or I didn't want to interrupt the other person because I could finish their sentence because they would speak too slow for my processing style, I would bite my lips so I wouldn't speak like. And all these cues together.
That must have been hard.
It still kind of happens, and I'm trying to control it. But that's a very common neurodiverse experience I noticed by following other members of the community. And yes, that has happened more than once.
Great. So just to kind of wrap things up, for me, I could really talk to you for hours and really dig in and get more insights into your world. Do you have any message you'd leave out there for employees, employers, companies, people? Just something, a little bit of a...
I would leave a message for the employers, because with the power dynamics, the employee needs to find themselves in an environment that is supportive. But for the employers, I would say, but building an inclusive environment is profitable on a social level, on a human level, and on a company level. Because having people that thrive can harness the creative and productive potential of the individuals. Building human-friendly working spaces will create a human-friendly society which will trickle down in other aspects of our lives. So educate yourself. It's a hard process to break your stereotypes, and adjustment always has the entropy of pushing back, but it's worth it, and in the end the company culture that you will create will be your legacy for your company and for your trace in society. And this goes to the employers, of course.
Thank you so much. Evita, it was really an honor speaking with you, meeting you, and knowing your little cute daughter. I hope we'll get to catch up again, and I wish you all the best, and we'll keep raising awareness and standing up for what's right, and make the world a much more inclusive place than it is today.
Thank you for the floor and the space, and we'll meet again.
Thank you. Stay strong.
Thank you. Cheers.
Have a nice one.